All right, guys, Still Mace Warrior here, Victoria Islas, and I'm so excited for this podcast. It's episode number 5. I'm actually real grateful about this guest because I feel like it's a blessing. I have Mr. Maceman with me today, also known as Rick Brown, and I guess we'll just get into this, right?
Let's do it.
All right, so, I mean, I'm assuming a lot of people know about Mr. Maceman, but let's assume that there's first-time listener, they're barely, getting to know you. Who is Mr. Maceman? What's your story? And how'd you get to the steel mace?
Good route of talking about this. I started out in the 70s. I'm 59. I was born in 1958, and I started out in the 70s training as a wrestler. And strength and conditioning was my goal. But back in those days, you have to remember that pretty much everybody learned how to work out by reading the quote unquote muscle magazines. So it was all bodybuilding standard training, and that really didn't suit me very well. I'm really long and stretched out, and even though I got stronger and better conditioned, the muscles didn't look like they do on some guys. And because of that, I was frustrated, even though I trained with a 5-time Mr. Universe, Bill Pearl. Some of the older people may know who he was. Bill Pearl trained with Arnold. I mean, come on.
Wow.
I trained in some good gyms, but it just, I always felt like a 5-foot-tall guy trying to play basketball. That's how it was for me. It was like roller skating uphill. And then around the turn of the Y2K, or a little bit after that, kettlebells became popular.
Right.
And I thought, let me see. And then once I found out what kettlebells could do and why they were different, and for conditioning purposes, far better than barbells and dumbbells, I sold all my standard weight training equipment. Back then you had to fly to Minnesota to get certified. I did that. I bought kettlebells. I came back home. I told my girlfriend that was living with me, she's now my wife. I told her, no, I'm gonna make a future with these things, and God bless her. She said, if you think you can, I'll back you. And she always has. She's always had my back. And she's the biggest blessing in my life. And I started doing kettlebells. I started teaching. I thought I was going to start my career. I thought I was going to build my career training fighters. And I trained some fighters, and I learned a few things about fighters. They're always hurt, they're always out of town, and they don't have money. And they think that if they train with you for 6 months and they wear your logo on their shorts, that we're even, right? So training fighters didn't do it for me. I met some good fighters. So I actually did train one guy. I'll get into it, but so I'm training kettlebells, and this great company, budovideos.com. The president was one of my clients, and he told me, he said, I want to do a kettlebell video, an instructional video. And I'm thinking, okay, we live in Southern California. Who's he going to get? I know. And he goes, no, Rick, we want you to do it. And I nearly fainted.
That's awesome.
I nearly fainted. And okay, so to make a long story short, we did the video. It's free on YouTube now. But the last chapter of that video, I'm training him outdoors, and I do some ropes, and I do some, of course, kettlebells, some heavy clubs, and then he does the mace. And more than anything else, people started asking about the mace. They started asking about it. And I'm thinking, okay, Mr. Kettlebell Man will now be Mr. Maceman. That was the start of me becoming Mr. Maceman. It wasn't the start of me learning the mace. Obviously, I learned the mace a few years before that.
Right. And now when they saw you with this mace, was it the huge ones that you use, or are they like your standard like steel mace? Because that always catches my attention.
Okay, good question. I tell you all the suppliers of that. It was a mace by Jake Shannon, who taught me the mace, of scientificwrestling.com. I've always kept close to my wrestling roots. And I actually have a quote in Jake's book right here that we'll go over later on one of the other questions. But Jake started selling, he learned from Carl Gotch, 1948, I think it was, Olympic wrestler, about the mace. Jake produced a 10-kilogram mace with, I think, a 54-inch handle. I bought 2 of those from him. I bought the training. I still have them. They're my first maces. And that's what I had on the video, 10 kilograms. And that's important. We'll get into it as far as when you ask me about the weights and things like that. But it was the 10-kilogram ones. The big giant ones didn't come till later.
Got it.
They didn't come till a few years later.
All right. Yeah. Because that always catches my attention because I have the steel mace. And when I see you with one of those huge ones, I'm going to have to ask you where the hell you get those later on. But
oh, yeah.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. Okay. So Jake Shannon taught me the mace. And Jake Shannon's a great mace guy and a great teacher, but he's got a lot of irons in the fire. And I said, Jake, I'm just a trainer. I want to take the mace and I want to take it everywhere. And both of us kind of wondered if that was going to happen. But then the interest started to come in and people started to ask about it. And hey, why not? So in 2013, I did the video in 2007, and I was training private clients. Not the best way to make a living, but it was in 2013 I did my first Mace seminar. And I was surprised at how many people showed up. And my goodness, they paid me for talking about the mace. I would talk about the mace for free for hours, and they paid me. And that led, after about 4 or 5 or 6 maybe, this gym in Central California called me up. Great gym, Wolf Fitness Systems. I went up there, did a seminar up there, a workshop, along with Eric Doyle of Long Beach Kettlebell Club and Melody Schoenfeld, who makes the big giant maces. And Wolf, if you for those out there who don't know who John Wolf is, he now heads up On It. So right. that group went to On It. But and then after that seminar, I started to get international seminars. And prior to that, Victoria, I didn't even have a passport. I never needed one. Wow. And now in the last 2 years, it's been 9 countries and 35 workshops.
That's amazing. I mean, to me, that's
so it's been good.
That's success with steel base, man. Yeah, that's awesome. Now,
I feel that way. Yes, I feel blessed. Yes.
Yeah. I guess what I want to go into too is like, there's this thing going around where there's flow and there's traditional. Mr.Maceman is traditional, right?
Right. And there at one time was some animosity and friction between the two, and I have to take responsibility for a lot of that. I have seen the error of my ways. A lot of that came about from seeing how great an athlete Leo Urquidez is, meeting him in person. Mm-hmm. Great guy, and he's pretty much the poster boy of the flow group, along with Eric Mellon, another great trainer. And I think that our two worlds can coexist, and so there's no more friction on my end. And I apologize for any that I might have started. Here's the deal. If you pick up a mace, whether you do it flow or whether you do it traditional like I do it, we all win. Okay, because I'm trying to popularize the mace. And if somebody is absolutely just going to do the flow and that's all they want to do, but one day they decide they want to compete, well, okay, they're going to come around and compete. And just like I did a seminar in Long Beach, and I invited a young man, and he said, Rick, I really liked your seminar. It was great, but I think for me, I'd rather do the flow. God bless you, guy. God bless you. There's room for all of us. There is room for all of us. And in my car, I've got CDs I still have CDs. I probably would have cassettes. I've got CDs by 15, 20 different artists. You know, you got jazz, you got some rap, and you know, you don't have to just stick with one. That being said, you guys will probably never see me do a flow video, though. I just don't think
it doesn't go. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no. For me personally, I stick with flow because I kind of suffer a little bit of costochondritis. So I kind of have a little like I'm a little fearful about doing so much 360s and stuff like that. So that's kind of why I stuck to flow. I guess we all have our personal reasons and
Right,
so on.
exactly.
Now, for someone just listening though, can you kind of explain the difference between traditional and flow for
Oh, sure,
beginners?
no problem.
Yeah.
Traditional mace, as practiced in India, where the mace started, 90% of what they do is the 10 to 2. And then they also do 360s. I think in some parts of Spain, they call the 10 to 2 a 300 because they're taking out some of the degrees of the 360, but most people call it a 10 to 2. So you got 10 to 2 and 360. And they compete with the 10 to 2. They practice with the 360 in India, even to this day. Now, of course, we're competing in America. And in other countries, Canada's doing a lot of competitions now. So whereas flow generally uses lighter maces, and it's much less strength oriented, it's more movement oriented.
There we go.
Okay, so it's not like you have to be a linebacker to pick up a mace.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So there you go, listeners. If you guys want to know what the difference is between flow and traditional. And now here's another question. Have you gone to India to compete?
No, I've competed in Vegas and I've competed in San Diego, and I haven't gone to India. No, not yet.
Not yet.
And I don't know if I ever will. If they ask me to, I will.
You will.
Of course.
How do you feel about that? I mean, because that's where Steel Mace comes from. You think Mr. Maceman will have some competition?
I've got competition here in America. What are you talking about? Yeah, but I'm, I mean, come on, man. I'm by the time I compete next time in September, I'll be 60. You think I care? I'm going to be 60. I don't care if somebody beats me. We all win, right? We all win. And that's what's beautiful about it. And the competitions are really friendly events anyway. Yeah, if I have a chance to go to India, of course I'll go. Of course. I've done 3 trips to Ireland, Norway, England a couple of times, Italy, and I'm going back to Italy, that I know. So, yeah, the only thing about India that I was leery of was in India, the mace is tied heavily with religious symbolism, and at the gyms where they practice, they kind of do a salute before they do to their deity, whatever it is, and I just didn't want to get involved in that. But I've talked with Paul Volkowinski, and he's been to India, and he assured me that you do not have to pray to their god. The only sign of respect you absolutely have to do is be barefoot in their gym, and that I can do. That I'm willing to do, of course.
Wow, I'd
love to go to India. My goal is take the mace every place.
That's a really cool fun fact. The whole, being, attached to a religion and stuff like that. I mean, because I've heard of the whole, like you tap your steel mace before you go into your training. Have you heard of that? Yeah, I know. I've heard of that. So I wonder if there's a correlation there at all. I don't know if that's
there is. And one of the really cool guys in the mace world, Rich Thurman, Coach RT3, he's just come out with a line of shirts. Beautiful artwork, Rich, but I'm not going to wear a Monkey God shirt. I'm sorry. Beautiful artwork, great shirts, but I just can't. I'm pretty strict on things like that. Okay, and I keep, just like on my Facebook pages and stuff like that, I keep, I'm an old man and I've got strong opinions, right? But I keep them to myself. Nothing on my page will ever be a religious, political, or anything sexual, because that's their business. That's your business, not my business. Not my business to preach. Okay.
Right on. Yeah, I saw that T-shirt. I actually liked it. I think I'd get it.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
All right. So
nothing personal, Rich. Nothing personal.
Nope. Definitely not. So how has the steel mace transformed you? What are some of the benefits that people would get from doing steel mace training?
Okay. Now, if you're going to train flow, I think the benefits are more general to your whole body. And I think that a guy who's really good at teaching flow can say, this is a whole body workout. I will be the first to say that with the style of mace that I teach, in fact, I say it at all my seminars, the mace is the icing on the cake. The cake itself is a kettlebell. If you only have money for one thing, get a kettlebell. There's millions of things you can do with it. With a mace, not so much. It is more centralized to upper back, shoulder, grip, training, and that's what I specialize on. And so how has it transformed me? I'm an old man with really strong upper back, shoulders, and grip. Okay.
Oh yeah, and we've seen it. I've seen it. I think that's crazy how you have these huge maces, and I wonder how heavy they are. And then I look at how long the handle is, and I'm so short. I'm like, there is no way I can use one.
Let me tell you something, Steel Mace Warrior. There's two ways that you can increase the efficacy of a mace. One is to make the ball heavier. The other one is to make the handle longer. And I say that, in a world where people pay $5 for a cup of Starbucks coffee, come on, save up your Starbucks money for a month, buy a decent real mace, experiment with different sizes, handles, and different loads, and you'll find one that feels perfect for you. I have one that was specially made, and it's 7 feet long. I have to stand on a box to swing it. It seems like It takes a whole minute to do a 360. But that was an experiment that was pretty much overkill. You don't need a 5 foot, you don't need a 6 foot or even a 7 foot long mace, and I have them both. But if you're short, stay with a shorter mace. I know a great competitor on the East Coast, and he prefers a shorter mace, William Calvani. He prefers a shorter mace. It's all good. Just that if you want real resistance, you got to load up the weight with a shorter mace. But find a length that you are happy with.
Yeah.
And experiment.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to take that into consideration. I should be experimenting. Especially if I'm a Steel Mace Warrior, I got to experiment, right?
Yes.
All right. So,
all warriors have more than one weapon.
There you go. So what are your thoughts on women getting into Steel Mace training? Because I've been seeing women pop up out of nowhere, and I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's making them stronger. But what's your opinion?
My opinion is that the army of mace training warriors will be headed by women.
No way.
Oh, absolutely. I can rattle off some names if I have to, but there's some women out there that, this is so funny, Victoria. This is so funny. I see guys online, buffed out guys, they post, they post, I had to get all psyched up. I'm using the 25 pounder, or I'm using a 30-pound mace. I hate to break your bubble, but a month ago, I had a great warrior, 54-year-old Dina Engard. She was toying with a 25-pounder, okay? Toying with it. And there in the Midwest of the United States, there's Kimberly C. Fox, who toys with a 35-pounder, okay? And these are not big women, okay? So, I'm very impressed with women. At most of my seminars, it's a 50-50 mix between men and women. And generally ask any trainer out there. When it comes to training people, women take instruction better, women handle pain better, and women don't think that they know everything. Whereas a guy, he's 25, 26 years old, he played high school football, I can't teach him a thing because he knows everything, because he's been in the weight room. That's just been my experience, okay?
Right on. Okay. So we're going to have a bunch of Amazonians from Wonder Woman's world later on in the future, huh?
No doubt. I've got a couple of granddaughters, and they will join the tribe too.
That's so awesome. So one of the things that, I've noticed is that you're a lot older than a lot of Steel Mace coaches out there, right? You mentioned at the beginning, I'm not pushing.
No, I am.
So how can a Steel Mace benefit someone over their 40s? So if we have someone listening and they're your age, what would you tell them?
Okay. I'm older just because the mace wasn't known. I would have loved to have jumped in on this when I was 25. Goodness, I would have loved to. But I was almost 50 when I found out about the mace, and I wasn't going to let it stop me. My goodness. So here's the deal. If you're doing traditional training, the force and the resistance is linear and it grinds on your joints. Be very careful. Mace training, whether it's competition, traditional, or flow, it's a circular, orbital, centrifugal type of training, which is nowhere near as damaging to your joints. As long as you proceed with caution, the Mace is at least, if not safer, than traditional forms of weight training. So I was in, where was I? I was in Newcastle, England. I trained a 67-year-old woman who we were actually kind of running out of maces at the event. She goes, "No problem. I'll grab a sledgehammer." I said, "No. I'll take the sledgehammer. You take a nice mace." And she's a great woman, 67 years old, a warrior. She knows how to use the mace now. It's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed by that. Wow. And I love the fact that you mentioned that it's actually safer than other forms of, strength training and stuff like that, because I think a lot of people fear that because they see this weirdly shaped, tool or whatever whatever you want to call it, and they get kind of scared to use it, So I guess that's something good to put out there, guys. It's completely safe.
It's very safe if you get good instruction and you're in you have enough space. I like an 8-foot circle around and 8 feet overhead. Again, it might not be safer to teach, but then that's where the responsibility comes on the instructor. It's a lot harder to teach than it is to teach standard weight training. But as far as the practitioner, if you're learning how to, I have many people come to my seminars that don't do traditional training. They just train with clubs and maces and things like that. So yeah, it's very safe, very, very safe. You don't have to fear. People say, well, I get comments all the time, "I would probably throw my back out." Okay, I've never seen that happen in a dozen years of teaching this. I would hit my head with that. As long as you still hold on to the mace, there's no way it's going to hit your head. If the mace is too long, it will hit other parts of your body. It might, as you swing it behind you, it may hit your calf if it's a long mace, and it may hit your backside, but it won't hurt. It's not, injuries are, I'm not going to say they're non-existent, but much less than in an average gym setting.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, if you have a steel mace in front of you, you're not going to loosely grip it. You're going to be like focusing on gripping the heck out of this thing. So I can't picture someone just, I don't know, dropping it on their head or something. Because most of the time we're completely focused on the movement, Right. So
Exactly.
here's another question. For complete beginners, what are some tips you can give them when they're just getting into steel mace? I mean, or is there any exercise they should begin with? Just let them know Mr. Maceman style.
Okay, for a complete beginner who says, "Hey, I've seen this mace out here, I'd like to try it." Find a qualified instructor.
There you go.
Find somebody and ask him 3 questions. How long have you been doing this? Who have you trained? And then if it's a traditional style like me, have you ever stepped up and actually competed? Okay, those I think are relevant questions. If it's flow style, how long have you been doing this? Who have you trained? Is there anybody I could see that, any proof of that you're effective? And also maybe who trained you?
That's a good one.
That's a good one. You don't want somebody, an appendectomy is not the most serious operation on the planet, but you don't want to be wheeled into the room and have a doctor say, "Hey, you're my first patient."
Right.
You don't want to be the first. Okay. So you want to know that your trainer's certificate, the ink is at least dry. Okay. You don't, it's just, and the mace has been around long enough, and there's some good people out there that are teaching it. And if you can't train in person with him, we have online training, and it's not the best. In person is, of course, the best. But if you're athletic and if you're coordinated, I would recommend, the video route or something like that.
All right. Yeah. And now where can they find stuff online? Like if they wanted to go online and look for stuff, if they didn't have someone they could train with in person.
Okay.
Resources.
Resources. Okay. I've got one through KIPS Online. You know about that one.
Mm-hmm.
There's also New Breed Mace Bell that does an excellent one. It's a much more athletic based, loaded movement type of training. Great resource. This is the one part of the interview that I'm really not prepared to talk about because I didn't look that up. I didn't look up who has stuff online. I'm not sure, but I think Rich Thurman might. But you can YouTube Eric Mellon. You can YouTube Leo Urquidez. You could YouTube Rich Thurman. There's people out there that have heart and soul and passion, and they put it into the mace. And I'll tell you this. You find somebody that loves the mace and uses money, not somebody that loves money and uses the mace to get it.
There you go.
And weed those people out. Here's what's happened, what I've noticed in the last 5 years of the mace. There's a large number of low-level trainers of other disciplines that maybe they're faltering and they're not so successful, and they go to a mace certification, and they're thinking, hey, my real passion is for rock climbing or ice skating, but the mace is catchy. So now it's steel mace ice skating and steel mace rock climbing and steel mace marathon and steel mace boxing. And find somebody who is a mace lover. Okay, I've got 17 maces. They all have ladies' names. I love the mace. I absolutely love the mace. If you came to me and said, Rick, I have a scientific report here that proves that dumbbells and barbells are better than the mace, that the mace is the least efficient form of physical training ever invented on this planet. Guess what, Victoria? Tomorrow I'm still swinging my mace. Because don't for a minute think that I do this type of training to stay in shape. I still do kettlebells. I still do Bulgarian bags. I still do barbells and dumbbells. I do the mace because it's the coolest, funnest thing I've ever done in my life. And I will do it until they shovel that last bit of dirt over me. Simple as that.
I'm glad you mentioned that because you can tell right away when someone's doing it out of money or if someone's doing it out of passion. I can totally tell that Rick Brown is all about passion. So if they wanted to work with you, if they're, how do they find your workshops? Like, do you have, I remember you having a website, but I think it's down, right?
It's being worked on right now because I want it to be the best. I want it to be a one-stop shopping, and I want it to be 99% free, whereas the information comes to you. But you can always find me, Rick Brown, R-I-K Brown on Facebook. If you go R-I-C-K Brown on YouTube, it's a black rapper in London. And totally different. But YouTube, Facebook, and on Instagram, it's at Mr.Maceman.
Okay. And then that's where they can find like information for workshops and stuff like that.
Yes, because I don't do anything without posting it far and wide. Everybody, the worst thing in the world is to travel 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 miles to another country and someone says, I didn't know you were here. Oh my goodness. That's my fault. If I go to Germany and everyone, within 500 miles doesn't know I'm there, it's not their fault, it's my fault. So use social media, it doesn't cost much.
Right. Free.
So go to Facebook and Instagram, you can find out everywhere I'm going to go.
All right, awesome. Yeah, because I've seen, and not to, talk badly or talk shit about people, but I've seen some trainers put people right into the 360 and they look like their body's just not, it's moving with the mace. And I'm like, what's your opinion? Do you think that's right? Do you think we should be putting them straight into the 360 or do you think we should be slowly getting them there?
Well, I have people in the course of a workshop getting to be competent in the 360, but it takes a couple of hours. I teach a number of moves. I specialize in the 10 to 2 and the 360, done standing, seated, and kneeling. And there's reasons that I do that. There's reasons that I have them do that. A lot of people are actually better seated than they are standing, and they didn't know that until they started doing it. But no, you're not going to pick up a mace first time and go into a 360 safely without throwing something out. It is a process, and a good teacher can get you doing it in a day.
Okay. And I recommend Mr. Maceman. I recommend Rick Brown for that. I think you guys should check his Instagram for the workshops. Now, I did want to talk more about like the competition part. Like, does Mr. Maceman, do you ever plan to have competitions? Like, do you ever want to throw a competition? That's the question.
Yes, absolutely. I still have planned to compete in another, groups competition in September. But as for my own, I'm planning to do that. Unfortunately for Americans, it will probably be in Ireland, and it will be the Emerald Isle Mace Championships. That being said, in the last week, I've spoke with a gym owner in Phoenix, and he wants to do mace competition. So that may be my first, actually, is in Phoenix. So, but again, I don't do anything like that without announcing it to everyone, because believe me, I want people to come,
That's great, because I'm in Arizona, so I'll definitely be there.
That's the plan. And mace competition, it's I love the mace, but come on, let's just get up there and swing a mace and have fun. And the rules are pretty simple. It doesn't take long. It's not a long competition. I did a 5-minute competition, and I did a 10-minute competition. The 10-minute competition, I'm looking at the crowd, and half of them are asleep, so let's stick with 5 minutes. And in fact, there might even be ways to make that even shorter. I'd like to pile on the weights, go really heavy, and see, hey, how much can we do in 1 minute with a super heavy mace? I would be more excited to watch that than to watch people mindlessly rattle on for 5 or 10 minutes.
What are in the competitions? Just like, is it just a 360 and the 10 to 2s, and
it's just the 10 to 2. It's just the 10 to 2. However, I think Canada competed in the 360. They did that. See, the sport is so new, Victoria, that write your own rules. If you're out there and if you have a big gym and you want to do Bob's Gym's mace competition, who's to say you're not right and we're wrong? And if you want to do a 3-minute set, do it. This isn't the NFL. This isn't the NBA. In the NBA, the basket has to be 10 feet high. It has to be. Well, in mace competition, you know what the weight is? The weight is, you pick the weight, and let's say you go up there and you do a 20-pounder and I do a 30-pounder. Well, there's no way we can evenly compete like that. So it's different categories.
Right.
If I do a mace competition, it will probably be one standard weight for the males and one for the females. And it's just it's so new, The rules aren't set in stone yet.
I'm so excited to just see the steel mace community grow, because we've seen like CrossFit over the years. CrossFit has become so popular. We have the CrossFit games now, Reebok's involved, and I don't want steel mace to get there. I'm not saying that. I don't want to get there too quickly, but I'm just so excited to see it grow. I want to see where competitions, I don't know. I'm just excited.
The thing is, nobody owns the mace, okay? Nobody does. I saw this happen in kettlebells, where people started having these factions and there was friction. And when I saw that it started to happen within the mace community, I said, okay, I can't have this happen. Even though I started a lot of it. I put up a graphic once, don't disgrace the mace, the stupidest thing I ever did. Okay, if you pick up a mace, do it with your heart. I started a little hashtag Mace Unity, and I think we all need it. We all deserve a shout out. Okay, we all do. And if we start bickering and fighting like two kids sitting in the backseat of a car, no, we're not going to grow.
Right.
We have to be encouraging to one another. Again, I didn't get into this for financial reasons. I have that handled on the side. I have that handled, taken care of. I do the mace because I love it. Simple, plain.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, it's actually funny that you brought that up. Yeah, CrossFit is pretty much owned by one dude, and then we have all those crazy fees that we have to pay, right? If you're in CrossFit. Yeah. I never even thought about that actually until you mentioned it.
Yeah. I don't want to see the mace go that way. It certainly wouldn't be me. I wouldn't be the guy running the whole show. But If you swing a mace with heart and with passion, and you really want to teach, and you really want people to do it safely, well, then you're on my side. I'm on your side, and that's why I'm prepared to give a shout out to all the people I know in the community that are going to do workshops in the next 2 or 3 months.
Okay. Now, before we give out those shout outs, one last question. Will Mr. Maceman ever have workshop where people can get certified, or are you already doing that?
Oh, I'm already doing that. Yeah.
You're already doing
that. The thing is that some certifications do have official credits for personal trainers to get CECs, what they call continuing education credits. The KIPS Online has that. Rich Thurman's does. It's a little difficult when you train somebody in a workshop. The real advantage of going to a workshop and learning from Mr.Maceman or learning from Eric Melland or Leo Urquidez is that you're getting it straight from the horse's mouth. You're getting corrected by a guy who's, like I learned kettlebells from Pavel Tsatsouline. I paid a good price to do that, and I never felt that I overpaid because he taught me. He wrote the book. He was there, and I was grateful for the opportunity. So yes, I absolutely certify people to be safe instructors of the basics of the mace.
Right
Yes.
on. And then again, I'm assuming the reason why I didn't know is because your website's not up, but eventually when your website goes up, you'll probably have that information out and everything for coaches or personal trainers that want to get into Still Mace with Mr. Maceman.
Absolutely. Can I read off? One thing I wanted to read, a shout out to Jake Shannon, who wrote the book,
Go for
The
it.
Sport of Catch Wrestling. Just one little thing as I was looking and preparing for this today, he put a quote in there, glasses. He put a quote in there. He says there's a 10-year rule that recognizes that it takes approximately a decade of serious effort to master any field. Well, okay. Might be a little simpler with the mace. There's not too many guys that have been doing it for 10 years. I've been doing it for 12. Not too many guys out there. And I'm not saying that that's crucial, but I am saying that it does take some time, put time and effort into it. That being said, the following names that I mentioned have put in time are people that you can trust. Most of them I have met, all except one of them I have met. And you can trust. Can I read the dates? These are just the next few weeks.
Yeah, and then if you want, you can send me that so I can put it under the resources area on the blog post, and that way
Great.
we can get people to get to know them.
Okay, this was just me checking this morning as to who's doing what. May 5th, Boston, Coach Rich Thurman. May 26th and 27th, Leo's going to be in Hollywood at a place called Nerd Strong Gym. I tried to get into that gym for 2 years, but they got Leo. Okay, he'll do a great job. June 2nd, Mr. Maceman in Lodi, New Jersey, combining with, this is to my knowledge, the only double certification. It'll be a Mr. Maceman cert and New Breed Mace Bell. You go to one event, you get 2 certifications. Okay?
I just want to say I was so excited for that one because I just got their online one, and I'm just like, I was excited and jealous at the same time because you guys are going to be so far away. I'm like, you guys got to do one in Cali or Arizona, please. Just had to say that.
Well, we'll do one in Cali. I can almost assure you that we'll do one in California. But as you know, because you have both the KIPS Online cert with Mr. Maceman and the New Breed Mace Bell cert, we're worlds apart. We're totally different.
Definitely.
This is not this certification. Yeah, this will not be a fusion. I'm not watering down what I do, and he's not watering what he does, Daniel Ramsey. We're shaking hands in the middle, and the people that come will get 2 completely different certs, okay? So June 9th, Costa Mesa, really close to me, Eric Melland in Costa Mesa. June 30th, I think it's also Eric Melland, but it is definitely on it in Renton, Washington. July 28th and 29th in Sarasota, Florida, an organization that I am a part of, a Mace Fit organization. It'll be a 2-day certification there in Sarasota. Mace Fit is doing great things. They just did one 2 weeks ago. If I left anyone out, I'm sorry. I did contact Set for Set a few hours ago. I said, hey, I'm going on the greatest podcast ever lived, and I want to know if I can give you a shout out. Do you have anything on the line? They said nothing in the line. However, Set for Set said, we just stocked our warehouse with Maces, so if anyone needs a supplier, contact Set for Set. So, there you go. If you're going to do a Mace certification, or if you're going to throw a competition, contact Set for Set. It's all about Mace unity. When one guy wins, we all win. And if you, that's the way I look at it. If you love the Mace, how am I going to say I play the guitar and nobody else can play the guitar unless they play like me? That's ludicrous.
There you go.
Okay. There's flow, there's competition, there's strength and conditioning. And what I wish a lot of people knew was that when I started out in this, because I teach 10 to 2 and 360, standing, seated, kneeling, one arms and two arm, and a handful of other moves, just a handful, not hundreds. I caught so much crap from the traditional community. They said that I had, and this is a quote, he said I bastardized the Mace.
What?
And yeah, well, I've been to his country twice, and people pay me to go to his country, and he lives 50 miles away. They don't pay him. Maybe that might be a reason why. Okay, so you're not going to stop me. I'm going to continue to do what I do, and I'm probably going to be in your area someday. So simple as that.
Yay! Well, nope, I don't want anyone to stop you, and I don't think anyone wants that, to be honest. But let's not stop this man, guys. Mr. Maceman, Rick Brown. I'm so grateful that I got you on this podcast. Now, again,
I'm grateful you asked me.
No, yeah, I'm totally. I never thought you'd say yeah. I thought that you were too godly for me. No, but okay. So where can listeners find you? You said Instagram. You're on
At
Facebook.
Mr. Maceman on Instagram. Facebook, Rick, R-I-K, Brown. YouTube, R-I-K, Brown. And those three places will get you involved and close with me. Friend me on Facebook. I have a page, Mr. Maceman, Rick Brown. It's a page on Facebook. Although the best way to get a hold of me is just Facebook, Rick Brown, boom. I answer. Anyone who's interested in the Mace, I send them my little booklet I wrote 8 or 9, 10 years ago, because there was nothing on the Mace out then. So I wrote a little booklet. I sent it out free. I'll send you links to all my YouTube stuff.
There you go.
If you're really, really serious, you might come to one of my seminars. If you don't, God bless you, do the Mace. Simple as that. Do
the Mace. Okay, guys.
Embrace the Mace.
Embrace the Mace and Mace unity, guys. Don't forget that. And so I'm going to go ahead and close this episode. So I just want to announce that there's a Steel Mace coach directory that I did completely free, just like Rick. I'm trying to do a website where 99% of it is completely free. And it's not just for the coaches. It's also for complete beginners or people who are trying to look for a certified coach or someone, how Rick Brown just said, looking for someone who can give you quality training, guys. So go ahead and go check that out, steelmacewarrior.com. And then, and I did the online store. I have some awesome t-shirts, some hats. If you guys like this podcast, I just want to let you know, I only make $5 from that t-shirt because my supplier takes all the rest. All right, guys, minus transaction fees. I don't get a lot from it. So just know that that money's just going to go straight to the podcast and to the website. So I appreciate you, Mr. Maceman, Rick, for being here with us. And I appreciate the listeners. And thank you. And may the universe always flow with you.
Thank you very much.